Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Tom Thompson, and you are listening to Podcast Zero. It's been a long time since I've done an episode of the show, but now it's back. I'm going to be trying to do it on a regular basis to the best of my ability. It's not always easy, but I'm going to try to make it a weekly thing. I think that's very doable right now. Today's episode is a conversation between myself and a gentleman named Joe, who I met on Reddit. We both frequent the r/UFO subreddit. This is a fascinating conversation. We went from UAP to demons to Roswell to consciousness, you name it. We talked about it. This was an absolute pleasure. I enjoyed every minute of it. I plan on having Joe back on the show as often as possible to bounce ideas off of. I had a great time speaking with him. So without further ado, this is my very, very first interview. I hope you enjoy it. Leave feedback, leave your comments. If you want to be on the show, get in touch with me. I'll be happy to have a conversation with you if you've had an experience, a sighting, or if you just want to just generally have a chat about these kinds of things. I'm more than happy to do so. So thanks for listening and enjoy the show. There it is. What's up, dude?
How's it going?
Another day in paradise, of course.
I hear you. As Lou would say, any day above ground is a good day.
Any day above ground is a good day. But yeah, man, welcome. Thanks for hopping in here tonight, dude. You're literally the first person I'm ever doing an interview with. So like, this is a whole new ride for probably both of us, actually.
Yeah, definitely. I've definitely never been interviewed on anything. So yeah, I'm happy to provide help in any way I can.
Fantastic.
The topic, and yeah, let's do it.
Sounds good. All right, so obviously, you know, like I said this to my girlfriend the other day. She's like, "Who are you interviewing?" I'm like, "Yeah, this guy Milk Fart." She's like, "What?" So what? I mean, do you have a name that you'd like to be called?
Oh, I mean, King Milk Fart is fine. I've made that bed, and I will happily sleep in it, much to the derision of my girlfriend as well. But you can call me Joe if you prefer. Totally up to you. I'm not very picky.
That's cool, man. So yeah, we'll go with Joe. I'm Tom.
Pleasure, Tom.
It's a pleasure to meet you too, man. Yeah, I see you roaming Reddit like all the time. So I was just like, yo, I see this guy on like every post. Every post.
Yeah. I definitely frequent the r/UFOs subreddit. Little else, but yeah, it's definitely a topic that I'm extremely interested in, and as if people are listening who contribute regularly as well, I'm sure that they know I'm a bit of a goofball, and I like having fun with it, and it's interesting. So hey, life's about laughs, right?
That's right. Absolutely, I totally agree with that. Yeah, r/UFOs is fun. I mean, I share what I can on there. I try not to do too much though. Like, you know, when I create content here on my channel, I try to do it in a way where people don't think I'm just like clout chasing or anything. Like, I legitimately share it because I really do want feedback. I want to have discussions with people, but sometimes, you know, the mods are like, "Hey, man," you know, and I'm just like,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because there are people, you know, like yourself who are doing something for the community as a whole, and with any sort of community, you're going to have snake oil salesmen that come along with it.
Right.
Corbell. So it's like... So, I mean, I guess you can't really blame the mods in that sense, but yeah, hey, I'm on it now, so I obviously want it to do well, because I want people to say, "Why does Milk Fart sound so stupid?" You know?
Yeah, that's right. You know, I mean, it's I don't know. Like when I'm on there, you know, I usually start with like what's hot or like what's up on top, and I go to new. And like some of these posts, man, sometimes like they're there and then they're gone. Like, you know, someone will be like, "Oh yeah, I'm from the planet this and that." I'm like, "Oh my god."
Oh yeah.
You
Thankfully,
know?
they are there and then gone, and not there and then still there, like r/aliens. I don't know if you've ever checked that place out.
Oh yeah, I'm there. I check r/aliens, UFOs. I'm in a lot of different subreddits, conspiracy theories, alien beings, ancient aliens, alternative history. I try to like.
I've never even heard of the alien beings one, r/alien beings. I'll definitely check that out.
It's not bad. Again, it's hit or miss. I mean, I think r/UFOs is the best. I've seen footage on here that is just absolutely incredible. It's where I got the Beaver, Utah footage that I did a whole video on.
Oh yes, yeah, that was you. Congrats on that, by the way. Great video.
appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, it's because I found that footage. I guess that's a good starting point. We'll start with Beaver, Utah. I found that footage, and then I found other videos that were really similar. And then there was a new one. As I was making that video, somebody caught another object on camera with a drone, like in the same area, and like Moab and all. It was like right in that region, and I'm like, dude, that's like the same object.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's something going on right now where it's to the point where it's like, okay, we can't just pretend like everyone's just looking at something that they're imagining. We've got it on film, high def film, drone footage. Yeah, are some of the things we're seeing drones? Without question.
Mm-hmm.
But this is something seen from a drone. That's not a drone.
I totally agree. I mean, I have what I've been doing recently, which I can honestly say, full disclosure here, is not something I would really do in the past. I didn't really look into footage of objects that are mistaken for UFOs. So I decided to go full bore head first, and I'm like, you know what? Let me see what these things can really do. Let me see what these drones can really actually accomplish. And there were videos where I'm like, dude, if I saw that out like in the wild, I wouldn't think that was a drone.
Absolutely, yeah. They have like competitions now where they do crazy aeronautics, flipping up and down, doing backflips, and flying through rings of fire 20 times a second and shit like that. And is that cool if I drop an S-bomb?
Yeah. Okay. This is not not that it's not family friendly, but it's like I always tell people when I'm talking to them on my streams or on my channel, you just let it fly.
Cool. Be yourself. Yeah, we can get into like gun control and abortion in a few minutes too if you want.
Right. Yeah. We can cover up whatever you want, man. Whatever you want.
No, but yeah, and it's especially like that Remy Gillard. I'm not even sure how you pronounce that guy's name.
Oh, I know you're talking about.
Yeah, and it turned out it was a drone, and haha, LOL, wasn't that great? Well, not really, douchebag.
I know, that's the other thing. It's like we're what people. I guess the problem is now is that there's this stigma that's been chasing everybody like myself. I'm 32, and I've had this like weird fascination with UFOs and aliens and that whole idea ever since I was a child. And then I had an experience. I'm not saying I'm an abductee, but I saw a ship, like full blown black triangle, came right over my head. The thing was like the size of a football stadium. It changed my life.
Holy shit.
There's one of my earliest videos on my channel is about it. Quality's terrible, but I mean the story is the story, and it's just it's just me talking over a bunch of pictures. But it's like I saw that, and then I see how much people like me get made fun of for it.
And you know that you saw it.
I know that I saw it, and I had a witness. I mean, I'm still looking for the guy too. I was in the Boy Scouts. And
no kidding. Yeah, I'll definitely check out that video where you break it down. I definitely want to hear that.
So what I'll give you like the Reader's Digest version of that. So like I was on my very first camping trip. I was like 9, and it was like in the late 90s going into the 2000s. And there's this kid Jermaine that was with me, and we were getting our like fire badge. So the two of us stayed up. Everybody went to bed, went into their tents. It was in Lebanon State Forest in New Jersey, and we had to tend the fire and make sure it was out. You got your fire badge, bada bing, bada boom. And all of a sudden, like if when you like put your arm up against like a balloon and you rub it, you feel like the static electricity as you rub the balloon over your arm. It was like that kind of sensation, but it was like everywhere. And I'm like, oh my God, what? Like, what is that? And he felt it too. All the birds stopped chirping, the crickets stopped making noises. And then we were in a clearing, and it was like one of those nights where the moon is real bright. Like,
you know what I would be thinking in that moment? Lightning strike imminent.
Yeah, I got a little right. I got almost like a little worried, but it's like there were no clouds. You could see the stars. I mean, it was like a real pretty night. And I'm like, well, it feels like an electrical discharge of some kind. And then all of a sudden, to my right, coming over the clearing, I mean, dude, like literally stereotypical. The 3 lights on each corner. Yep. And like, I'm not gonna. Now I know some people. I plan to go back and change the title. I know it's called TR3B. I don't want to use that term because that's like a bastardized term now. So we're just gonna call it a black triangle.
I think that's a good call. Yep.
Yeah. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The guy who like invented that term is
widely debunked,
discredited at this point. So It comes over, and no noise, no nothing, and it just floats over my head, and it was just gone, and that was it. Like it was like 10, 15 seconds, and that was it. It wasn't even going that fast as far as I could tell, but because it was huge, it may have been. I don't know, but
yeah,
nature came back to life, and we just looked at each other like, you know, what the hell just happened? And then I'm thinking to myself, how do I tell any of my friends about this? They're gonna think we're crazy. I woke up a couple people, and you know, they're like, go back to bed, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it changed my life.
Something like that. It's like, you know, especially when you're that age, you're not gonna wake up someone to tell them a story you made up. You're just not gonna do that.
No, exactly. When you get older, you start to realize those things.
Yeah, the last thing you want is to be that kid who woke up people because he thought he saw something. Like, that's everyone's biggest fear when you're that age. You want to be the cool kid. You're not going to do something that might end up blowing your credibility, you know, your street cred, if you will, at that age.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to look like a fool, and then, you know, all your friends are like, oh, he's the alien guy. And that's exactly, like, we're coming full circle now. It's like, I feel like now we're in a position with this topic where, at this point, people are beginning to be taken more seriously. You know, you have David Fravor and the likes now coming out and saying, hey man, like I chased one of these things, you know, and there's still people who are just like, oh, well, you know, could have been, you know, light refraction or Venus. And I'm just like, I can't understand how they could possibly come up with that particular idea at this point when we have it on radar. We have video, we have audio, we have eyewitnesses, multiple, and they're saying they're seeing these things off the East Coast like daily. And every day, I believe, was Ryan Graves, right? Ryan Graves, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what Ryan Graves said. Now, and of course, we have these YouTubers who I'm not calling them stupid, nothing like that, but they come up with these ideas to try to debunk it as if they're a pilot themselves. And I'm not saying that their knowledge is limited, but it is limited to a point because they're not up there. Right. So how do they know? And I think the answer to that is, well, it's twofold. It's a combination of your classical cognitive dissonance of it's not something that I can easily accept because I cannot easily understand it. Therefore, I'm going with it's not real until I am looking down the barrel, so to speak, of the smoking gun, which hasn't happened yet. God willing, will happen soon. But I hope so. The other part I feel is that people just lack the information. It's not so much an argument from, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, they're not arguing against the concept, they're arguing against the specific events because they don't know all of the details. They don't know the FLIR radar or how it works. They don't know that. They don't know how the Hawkeye works. They don't know how the radar at the aircraft carrier works. You know, when you say to someone they have, well, we had multiple sensors, unless you go into detail about that, if I'm just Joe Schmo on the street here, I hear that, I go, oh, that means they had 2 cameras on it. Big whoop. You know what I mean? Right, yeah, of course. No, of course. And, you know, I don't claim to be some kind of military equipment expert, but when these pilots and these military officials come out that clearly do have that kind of knowledge, and they're like, listen, this is not normal. That to me, that should be enough for people like Neil deGrasse Tyson and you know, Bill Nye. These guys should, like, their ears should be perking up. Like, I feel like science is moving in like a negative direction. And you know, again, I'm not saying that it's like everybody, but I'm going to use this phrase and, like, you know, I'm going to catch some flack for it, but it is kind of like scientism. I feel like there's a difference between these academics that kind of lurk around and are very open-minded. You know, like the individuals involved with like the Galileo project, for example, like they like Avi, I always forget how to say the guy's name. Is it Avi Leb? Is that how you say it? Loeb. Yeah, he's like, to me, he's an embodiment of what we need to, as far as individuals that should be studying this topic. These are gentlemen and women who are open-minded. They're like, listen, I don't have an answer. We're looking for them. Whereas, you know, as much as I respect them, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye, and others, they speak about it as if they do have their mind made up, and what they're doing is they're looking for pieces to fit the mold that they've already made, and that's unfortunate because we're not going to get anywhere at that point.
They're doing exactly what they made a name for themselves, calling other people out for doing, which
that's
is
a great
coming
point.
to a conclusion and then finding the evidence that fits after the fact.
It's like, guilty before innocent at this point, and it's counterproductive, unfortunately. And coming from my perspective, someone who has had an experience, it's very frustrating because it's like I wish I could take that image, that memory from my mind and like rip it out of my head and hand it to someone like, look, see it, believe it, it's there.
It's funny that you say that, because that made me think, why am I not more with myself having an experience as well? Why does it not, I guess, bother me more on a personal level when I hear those guys say those things, knowing that I know what I saw as well?
Right.
And I think it's just because it's so obviously coming from a position of don't even bother putting the evidence on the table. I'm not looking at that table right now.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's very true. They don't want to look at it.
If you could rip that memory out of your head and put it on the table in front of them, they'd be talking about it, obviously.
Right, exactly. They don't... the problem is that they come, again, from a place of their mind is already made up, and they have been basically brainwashed into making fun of the topic. And that's to me, it's anti-scientific to go about it in that way.
It absolutely is.
Look at all the... there's more evidence for this than there is for like the existence of Jesus. I mean, and I'm sure that's going to piss somebody off by me saying that, but it's true.
I mean, it's just objectively true. Yeah,
it's actually true. I mean, and I'm not. Listen, I lean more towards that. Like, he was at least an individual. I don't know, his godlike abilities and such.
Probably real.
Probably real. To have that kind of ripple effect throughout history, I would imagine that there had to have been something there. But
sure,
but
there was one document.
Have to. Right, there's exactly. It's like, but now look at what we have. Like, I always tell people, they're like, all right, this is a question that I have been asked. Like, when I'm on PlayStation with guys and doing my casual gamer thing, I talk about this a lot, and not everybody is interested. Some people are like, I don't really think we're being visited, and I'm like, well, I always point them in the same direction. There's two things I bring up. I bring up Roswell because they admitted it. They admitted it. They admitted that they had a disc, and then they changed their story. I point to that, and then I now you may not agree with this because I've had a lot of people like totally disagree with me on this one, but like I point them to Bob Lazar. I happen to believe Bob Lazar. I don't think he's lying. I have his autograph on my wall right next to me. I have one of the prints of he did like line drawings of the sport model, and I literally got it mailed to me. What's that?
Those free?
Yeah. Well, it was. I went to the United Nuclear website and I ordered it, and that's actually like
money.
It did cost money. Yeah. Well, they talked them into doing right, and
I'm just busting your balls, man.
But no, you make a good point though. You do make a good point, but
I think Lazar has his heart in the right place. I think he 100% worked in a classified facility. I think that, unfortunately, and this again, my personal opinion, I don't know the man. He could very well have literally never lied in his life for all I know.
Right.
From what I pick up, he over-exaggerated it as a means, unfortunately, when after years of having his heart and mind in the right place, getting him nowhere, and I guess for lack of a better term, fell to the dark side, if you will. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and it's like neither one of us can really say one way or the other, right? Like that's the point. Now, moving away from Bob for a second, though, then I look at something like the Wilson document, and Richard Dolan knew about that document like years before, and I trust Dolan. I've spoken to him personally. I'm not saying I'm like one of his confidants or anything, but I attended this online seminar that they had. I got to talk to Lou, and actually, it's on my channel too. Yeah, I got to ask him a question. They did like a,
How did you come up with a question?
It was tough. So I actually, it was more of like a question that was relevant to that moment. I asked him if he could speak on any other crash retrievals throughout history, aside from Roswell, that he may have had some information about. And he brought up the bit about Mussolini in Italy in the 30s picking up something out there. And
nice.
It was played. It was hard. There were some other questions that were excellent, and there was a question that I had 3 questions ready in case anybody asked mine, and 2 people basically asked the 2.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, hey, you were prepared though. Good shit.
It was cool though, man. It was in it's this thing called the observatory. It's this like digital learning hall, like you're like in a college class. And I was sitting, like my digital avatar was sitting right next to Jay from Project Unity.
Wow.
And I got to talk to him. I got to talk to Dolan.
Screen if I ever saw one.
Oh, dude, I have the whole thing recorded. It was like 14 hours.
Beautiful.
It was the longest I ever sat in front of my computer. It was a really good time though. And again, like Lou catches so much flack. I stand by that gentleman at this point. I believe him. And you know why I believe him? Because the Pentagon tried to make him look like a fool, and Harry Reid came to his rescue. That's why I believe him. Right there is when they tried to lie about the guy. That's when I knew he was legit. That's how I know.
A to the men, my brother. Lou Crew, till I die.
I believe him.
Putting that out there. I believe him 100%. He is a patriot.
Yep.
The man has gone and stuck his neck out. He is the principle of what everyone in our armed services should strive to do, and that is acknowledge the fact that at the end of the day, you are a service member, and that service is for the American people, not the people with an extra stripe.
That's exactly right. He's a class act, I think. I think he's very well spoken, and and listen, I'm sure to some extent,
are so lucky.
Right, I think
him as a father.
They have a good dad. He's, his wife's lucky to have him as a husband, and we're lucky to have him as an American. And I think history will look back on him with a lot more reverence at this point. He's the man.
Agree more.
He's the man.
Not agree more.
I think out of everyone that's ever come forward, I think he's the guy. And listen, I'm sure he, to some degree, enjoys a little bit of the spotlight. And there's but see, people like they act as though that's like a bad thing. And I'm like,
right.
Is it though? Like, wouldn't you enjoy it if you were getting a little bit of attention and could have a conversation with just about anybody that you wanted at any time on the internet? Like, they'll listen to you. I feel like that kind of power and that kind of pull, that magnetism is intoxicating to some extent, and I think he's handling it well.
I will go out of my way to comment on his musculature. So I'll say it right here that you don't gotta ask me, is it okay to enjoy a little attention every now and then, because I know people tend to like that, because it's if you're gonna be in the public eye in any way, shape, or form, why not get a giggle or two? Why not have fun? I mean, the guy is doing basically around the clock podcast interviews
all the time,
from everyone from Jimmy Church to Coast with George Knapp.
Love those guys.
60 Minutes to this guy who on YouTube just got his 2nd subscriber, from the Dominican Republic or whatever.
Everywhere.
He's like, hey, I'm here. Let him have fun with it.
Exactly. I totally agree with that. I'm actively trying to get him on my show. I'm working on it, man.
Oh man, Godspeed. I you know what? I would bet you he'll do it.
I think he would. I have reached out to him, and like I've seen him on other channels that have like just like a few more subs than me. But I know that those gentlemen have some kind of credit. I want to really pick his brain though. I want to try to come at him with questions that people don't ask. I kind of like in some odd way I almost want to make him like squirm, because I want to hold, you know what I mean? Like not to like,
hey, do it.
Not to like make him feel uncomfortable or whatever, but like I really want to pick the guy's brain and show him and hold him to that standard of, okay, man, you said I could ask you anything.
Yes.
But I really want to do it.
Angle, because I'll tell you what, when you watch him on all the interviews that he has done, and believe me, I've watched all the interviews he's done.
I have
you'll notice that he gets flack from people because, he only ever says the same thing. No. he's very often just asks the same questions over and over and over.
100%.
Wouldn't it be not okay if he kept giving different answers? That would be a problem.
Of course it would. Someone would, hone in on that immediately and call it out on Twitter within seconds.
Yeah, so I think that's a great angle. You want to make him squirm. Yeah, ask him questions with maybe just wordage that's or verbiage that's worded in a way that isn't just I'm gonna give the same answer I gave to the last 45 guys.
That's the hard part. It's very difficult because obviously he's always doing this pirouette dance around the things that he can and can't say, which people don't understand, like just how difficult that is. I can tell you that without going into too much detail, that I know some people personally that have worked in alphabet agencies, and I know. All right, so I'll say this on the podcast without giving away too much. This is something that I learned many years after the fact. Apparently, at a Christmas party. I won't say it was at a family member's house. I'm not even going to say what family members. I'm not going to say the guy's name. I'm not going to say the agency. This is true. I was told this by someone very close to me that I am related to, who is not even anywhere near the conspiracy enthusiast and high strangeness connoisseur that I am. But they told me that at a Christmas party in the late 90s of a relative of mine, that a certain someone's cousin who worked for one of these agencies got a little buzzed and basically blurted out that the TWA Flight 800 incident that happened. You know what that is?
That the Iranian.
So it was
shot down.
It was a plane that had quote unquote blown up off the coast of the United States.
I should know this because I'm actually a plane crash junkie as well.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah, so I should know this, but man, you know what? I can look it up real quick. I'm sure I'll know it.
I just want to get the dates right.
So TWA 800.
Yeah, TWA Flight 800. It blew up in the Atlantic Ocean. It's near East Morricks. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. New York. On July 17th, 1996, coming from John F. Kennedy International.
Oh yeah, I do.
There was a lot of controversy over this. There was actually a documentary about it on Netflix that disappeared real quick, talking about
really?
talking about FBI interference with the evidence, and there's a lot of weird stuff that happened there. 230 people died.
There was a lot of misrepresentation of the condition of bodies or something. I remember about this, or there was completely missing rows or something like that.
Yeah, there was a lot. Yeah, because what they did is they took it into a hangar, and they, this is what they do with plane crashes. I'm sure you know this, that they try to rebuild the plane from the pieces that they have to kind of examine what actually occurred. And there were tapes missing, footage was being tampered with, all types of stuff. And this person in my family said, yeah, it was accidentally shot down by the military. It was an accident.
I mean, it makes sense.
Now, they say it was an in-flight breakup due to fuel tank explosion caused by short circuit. Well, that's not true. It's just not.
Pretty weird to wire through the gas tank there, Boeing.
Right. That doesn't really make any sense. And again, I could be wrong. I mean, he could have been off his rocker and just blurting out information he heard. But from what I understand, the details of the story that I can't tell, just to protect people, because this is obviously a very sensitive topic close to me in some regards, he knew what he was talking about. I have a couple real good stories like that that I could tell. There's one in my back pocket that I don't know when I'm going to post about it, or I remember there was a day that I was typing it up on Reddit and I deleted it because I was just like, I don't know what this could cause, because it's actually that serious.
Man, I'm getting some juicy drippings over here, man.
And I'm not I know it's tough. So all right, this is I'll just give a brief little summary. I dated a girl when I was a teenager whose father, who I'm telling you, this guy was just honest, honorable, respectful, very intelligent gentleman, told us one day in the kitchen that an alphabet agency killed his cousin, who was like his best friend, because he saw something that he wasn't supposed to, and told him about it. And he was like, did you ever wonder why when you're on the phone with so-and-so, my girlfriend, that, you hear clicking and stuff? He's like, because the phones are tapped. They're still tapped. They're always going to be tapped. And I'm like, oh? I'm like 16, 17, into all of these things heavily, and I'm looking at him as he's telling me this story, and I'm just like, are you kidding me right now? But the part that really gets me going is that the stuff that I'm even kind of like apprehensive about speaking about, just because I listen, if they weren't close to me, I'd probably just be like, look, dude, I heard this. But because these were people that I knew in real life, I'm not in contact with them anymore. Obviously, we broke up many years ago, but I'm still friends with them on Facebook, because when you become an adult, you're cordial with people. I would be like afraid that I'm putting somebody at risk, but he said that he never told us any parts of the story that would be what would actually cause trouble. So when you hear the story, you're like, wait a second. So what's missing? You're like, wait, what's the part that he told you that they killed him over?
Right. Because there's no like obvious gap in the story where like you see a big old redacted bar.
Right. But he said that it's whatever his cousin told him, it was so earth-shaking that he said that he doesn't even know if he would spill it on his deathbed. And that it would change your like entire perspective, like on all of reality. And I'm like, what? I'm just like, oh, you like. There are days where I'm so tempted to just message him and be like, listen, remember that thing years ago that you told us? Like, can I meet up with you? Can I call you? Like, I like it. And I will say, it is of an extraterrestrial nature. I am very tempted to. Very tempted.
Worst that can happen is he'll say no.
Right. The worst, he'll be like, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're talking about.
And then you do a little Google and you find out where he lives and you threaten.
That's right. Like, listen, man, here's the deal.
Yeah.
Dress up as the Men in Black.
You're going to sit down. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Well, whatever it is, he thought it was going to put his children in danger, and so
sure.
Obviously it caused a problem. So, the reason I'm not going to like go full detail on that story right now is because I think it deserves its own video. I do. I really, really do. Like, and it's
and I mean,
a Reddit post, everything.
Yeah, if you're gonna go into something at that level,
it is
that level.
It's high up.
You definitely want to make sure that you don't want anyone's name involved.
Oh yeah, no, I'm
direly necessary.
No names. Yeah. I've thought about changing a lot.
Maybe even location, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Without going too far into that, like, I'm not even gonna like divulge on where it was, but the part that holds me back too is like, I'm gonna get a lot of dislikes on this too, because there's gonna be people who are gonna be like, dude, you're making this up, and I could totally understand it. Totally understand it.
Sure.
But this is something, and he could have been lying, possibly, but this was a grown man crying in his kitchen telling me this story. He's like 44 years old, crying. Because this was his cousin that he was. Part out. Yeah. So he was very emotional talking. That's why it hit me.
Did that like just happen at the time?
No, it had happened years before.
Oh, okay.
It was in it was in the late 90s, but
yeah.
I mean, let me tell you something, Joe. Like, between you and I here in the audience, this story it's frightening. It is. It's very frightening what they did. And I'll tell you honestly, I do believe it. And it was because he was crying when he told me the story. That's why.
Yeah. Hard to think. There's a reason that'll get you an Oscar,
Yeah, and it's just that, it's not like he was putting on a performance for anybody. I mean, you see us every day. I'm dating your daughter. It's like there was just no reason for him to do that. He wasn't one to tell tall tales.
And I'll tell you this: at first cursory, at the first intro to that story, the skeptic half of my brain immediately went to, this is a guy doing a very, very, very elaborate "don't fuck my daughter" threat. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
no
right.
man is gonna make that while crying. No man on this earth. I'm
No,
sorry.
no. And like, he really liked me too. You know, the guy was like a science major and stuff. So he was like, he was a smart guy and hardworking. He just seemed like a really, really believable person. And the emotional
What would
impact.
he gain out of that
Nothing.
Elaborate, exactly.
Entertaining a bunch of teenagers in his kitchen. It
While
just
weeping?
doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Exactly. It just doesn't make sense. So that story was weird. That was the
I can't
craziest
wait
thing
to hear more
anyone.
about that sounds great.
I got to do it soon because it's like I've shared a couple stories on Reddit. One about an experience my mom had who isn't into this. Like, has even said, she'll say things like, "Oh, I don't think we're being visited," blah blah blah. But I think it's just because she's afraid of it. She's afraid of the unknown in that regard. But then tells me this story about her walking in the woods as a teenager. I'll tell you this one. With a friend. This was back in like the early 70s, and this is in New Jersey, and something crashed in the woods that was small, whatever it was, because she said she saw it smoldering in the area in which it was smoldering when she came upon it with her friend. Whatever it was like smaller than a car. And
Oh, wow.
like the police and like the military were like already back there and were like, get the hell out of here. Had like a very strong
70s.
visceral reaction. Yeah. I think I could just go back into my Reddit posts. I'll pull it up. It's coming from my mother, I was just like, whoa, Mom, really?
Yeah.
Like, no kidding. And let's say it's a UFO, right? Like, let's say it is actually
Sure.
something like that. I had the impression that it was like one of these small drones, like that one piece of footage that was released where it's like dipping in and out of the water and all that. And I'm like, that sounds like that size.
The Aguadilla footage, or Aguadilla. Yeah.
Right.
That looked like something that was probably about maybe half quarter size of a car.
Exactly. It was very strange. She said the whole situation was just really weird, and she didn't know what to make of it at the time.
There, Jesus,
She didn't know what to make of it. It was one of those things that I was really surprised about because of who it was coming from, like my mom, of all the people.
And again, K Bono, who benefits? You
Right.
know?
This is my mother.
Yeah, she's not selling you a book deal or anything.
No.
It's like, come on.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, she literally just was just like, hey, look, this actually happened, and I just wanted to, thought you would find this interesting. It's got 8 upvotes on Reddit.
It's a shame. You know what? Sometimes though, you just miss the wave of people viewing it, and sometimes a really good thread will just, it'll fizzle out early like that. I'd say maybe give it another post in the future.
Yeah, it might be, and again, it could have been a lot of different things. But here, I'll just put it in the general chat there. It's an interesting story.
I'll definitely check it out.
The reason, again, it was just the visceral, very quick to jump reaction from the personnel that were on site that were just like, get out of here.
Yep.
If it had been a plane crash or something, well, why then when my mom said, what is it? Like, why wouldn't they tell her? If it was a plane, they'd just tell her it was a plane.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, stand
weird
back.
story.
There's a plane. There's jet fuel. There
Right.
could be an explosion. Stand back. There's your explanation. Bye-bye. None of that, though. Just get the F out of here.
100%. Very, very interesting. Yeah, she's not one to, subscribe to this, but I will tell you that she is going to listen to this conversation because, she's my mom and she supports my content creation, obviously. So she's going to be like, hey, yeah, I'll check it out.
People listening, that's called being a good mom.
That is being, she's the best. She's going to hear this part too. She's going to hear this. My aunt's going to hear this. So because I know she's always lurking.
Hey, you're a good mom. You're a good aunt.
Something I wanted to bring up, a little change of pace that I thought was really fascinating. I actually shared this. If you go into, now that you're obviously a part of my Discord, if you go into our UFO section here, I have shared God knows how much content on here. Like, just stuff that I think is like the best that I find on like a daily basis. Lou apparently was talking about flying Roman shields.
Oh, yeah. That was on the British GQ interview. Yes.
So well, I'll read this here for everybody that's just listening audio-wise. Elizondo just did a talk at British GQ. The question of the host: how long do you think we've been visited for? The idea of the flying saucer seems to be a supposed war phenomenon. Do you think it's the last century, or that it goes back further than that? And Lou says, fantastic question. Let me share with you an experience that I had in Rome not too long ago. I had the honor and pleasure sitting down with some individuals from out of the Vatican. Of course, the Vatican. Of course, they are. They know a lot that they don't share. And there was a scroll.
Archive, baby.
Oh, of course, yeah. The Vatican catacombs, and there was a scroll, and in the scroll, written in Latin, there was a communication between a Roman soldier and a Roman general some 2,000 years ago. And what they described in this communication was the name for the Roman shield is Eclipus, which it means like eclipse, like the sun. And so they described these flaming Roman shields in the sky that would follow them from battle space to battle space. That really we obviously know what that sounds like, but what that reminds me of is some of the things that Tom DeLonge has actually spoken about, which, again, he's kind of fallen off the cliff a little bit. He's not really on the radar as much, but I finally listened on audiobook on Audible to Secret Machines and all that, and I think there's some credibility to some of the things that he says he's heard from these high officials that would like to remain anonymous. But this idea that these beings have possibly been driving some of the history that we've witnessed. Maybe, they've at least been observing all of our wars, but that they've had this influence on our species and the outcomes of maybe possibly some of our conflicts. And I was just curious, I guess we'll move into kind of ancient alien territory. We'll start with this. Do you think that if these visitors are indeed here, which obviously you and I both believe that is the case, do you think they've been here a long time?
I think that not only have they been here a long time, I think that it would not make sense for them to not have been here a long time.
Right.
Just given the grand scale of time that has passed in this universe, in this galaxy, before the Earth even formed the shape of a sphere, let alone the first single cellular life forms developed on it, the billions upon billions of years that would have allowed for other civilizations, whether it's our own solar system, our own galaxy, another galaxy, a galaxy on the opposite side of the universe or of the observable universe. There has been simply so much more time before our planet existed that if life can develop independently, which all science points to it can at some point, if given the right conditions, if something were to develop elsewhere, come and visit us, to choose the sliver of a sliver of a sliver of time that we had bipedal apes walking around this planet, it would be so dramatically beyond a coincidence that the word coincidence just doesn't do it justice.
It doesn't do it justice at all, right? If the way I look at it is, if we obviously actively send out probes and all types of equipment out into space. Now, if we were to find, let's say on Europa, an organism of any kind, first of all, obviously that's the biggest news story ever, right? Yeah, and Europa's fascinating, isn't it?
Best moon.
It's pretty cool. Especially, I'm sure the view from Europa is probably startling considering it's orbiting Jupiter. But imagine this. Imagine we find a life form that's in obviously the early stages of some kind of biological development. Wouldn't we then set up some sort of science project to possibly monitor that for the next X amount of years at least? Why would we suddenly stop?
There would be, not only would we do that, there would be a global race to be the first to do that.
Right, exactly. And now, now obviously that's just the idea of observation. Now, the idea of creation is a whole another topic in and of itself. As I get older, and when I can tell you, even though I have been a proponent of UAP and UFOs, just the idea of being visited, I've basically always believed it, but I didn't really start believing that there was the possibility that we were created by them until I got a little bit older, until I was a teenager. When I was about 18 or 19, I got my hands on Chariots of the Gods and all that from my uncle.
Sure.
He gave me communion from Whitley Strieber, and then he gave me Chariots of the Gods, and I'm like,
Pretty cool uncle. Good uncle.
Oh yeah, and my Uncle Joe. That's right. He's a cool guy. Good name,
uncle.
right? He's a great uncle. I read that and was like, whoa, wait a second, because if you take all of ancient history and all of these quote unquote myths and everything, you read them through these new glasses that you now have on, these ancient alien glasses, and you're like, wait a second, this all looks very different. And I always tell people, I'm like, if you think it's nuts, look up the cargo cult phenomenon, and you will.
Perfect analogy.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
We visited these islands. If you don't know what this means, if you're a listener,
Get ready for a treat, because this shit's nuts.
This is so crazy, right? Like, so cargo cults, it's this phenomenon that was observed. Like during World War II, there were these abandoned Japanese islands that we decided to camp out on as we were trying to figure out if we were going to invade or drop the bomb. And there were tribes there. I think it was the Japanese islands. It was during, I believe it was during World War II where this was.
Yeah, it was during the Pacific Theater when we were island hopping through all of the islands on our way to the Japan.
I try to be accurate. I know I'm going to make mistakes here and there off the top of my head, but there were these tribes on these islands that have never seen technology before. They have not seen airplanes. They haven't seen anything. The closest that they had was probably fire. Really, like they were.
Yeah. Like they were all basically untouched. Like we're talking not a light bulb in their civilization.
Incredible that even and apparently that still exists now, which is amazing to me. That is like put that like for anybody that's listening, put this into perspective. There are still groups of people on this planet that have no idea what technology is. They don't and you could call fire technology because it is used in that way.
Without a doubt.
They don't know what phones are. They don't know what the internet is. They don't know what politics are. They don't know who Donald Trump is. They don't know Biden. They don't know of any of what we deal with. Social media, nothing.
The most complex machine that they've ever constructed, if not a bow and arrow, was probably like a winch and pulley system.
Exactly. Or like an arrowhead. That's an accomplishment for them. So we go to these islands, and we set up shop there, and luckily they were friendly. They didn't decide to start shooting off arrows at us, because that has happened before.
Exactly.
Yeah, this time. That's happened in the Amazon. There were photos of these tribesmen in the jungles of the Amazon. We had either drones or helicopters flying over the Amazon, and there's photos of these guys down in the forestry, literally launching arrows at our
there's that island
machines.
With that tribe that's internationally protected. I think it's in the South Asian Pacific area, where the entire island is all and if you set foot on that island, they will kill you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They don't play around. They think that we're demons.
Yep.
They think that we're supernatural beings. Right. Exactly. And they see our airplanes and they start shooting off arrows at us. But when it goes the other way, they thought we were gods. So we leave. And we had given them care packages. We showed them,
chocolate, tobacco, all the wartime goodies.
We probably introduced them to the idea of using a lighter. Look, I can make fire with this little thing. They probably let them smoke a cigarette. Mirrors, right? That's a really good one. Yeah, mirrors. People don't think about that one, but that's got to be shocking. They'd never seen their own faces except for in the reflections of the water before.
If you live to the third or fourth decade of your life never knowing the concept of a mirror, and then someone just inexplicably put one in front of you, you would think that they had just opened a black hole in front of you.
Exactly. Let alone an airplane, because that's what they specifically did. Is they took natural materials from the surrounding area. They built makeshift objects that were meant to resemble airplanes, and they started effigies.
D-29.
Right, and they started dancing around them and worshiping them because we gave them
annual solar and star-based holidays based around landing strips of palm leaves. Because when the U.S. was there, 2 generations ago, they have stories of their ancestors talking about the great iron eagle gods who landed on these strips of flat earth when it was just the Americans just paving a runway. You know what I mean?
Now
it's nuts.
Taking just that idea, we can go back into popular ancient history that's well known, taught in schools and everything around the world, and we look at things that are similar. So like a good example I like to use are the Hopis when they talk about the Kachina and the star. They tell you our culture came from the star people. They still hold traditional ceremonies and events based around the idea that beings came down from the sky thousands of years ago and handed us information.
It had to start from someone telling that story first.
Right.
And I just don't see all these cultures having the same crazy guy make up the same crazy story that just so happened to catch on.
I know. I tell people that, like, it's pretty much understood that, like, the idea of writing fictional tales really didn't arise that far back. So when they were when they were recording information, it wasn't because they were telling tall tales. It's because it was history to them. It was important. So when you see the cave drawings that show these very tall, two-legged creatures standing alongside shorter beings that look more human, it's like you might want to pay attention to that. That may mean something. That may mean that someone came here that was taller than us, that looked like maybe your stereotypical grays or your mantis creatures, and they were here. And then some of the knowledge that they were handed, they couldn't have possibly known. And again, it's one thing when you have these islanders that interacted with servicemen from the United States during World War II, but we are talking about very similar stories that are literally thousands of years older, when such thing could have happened because no one on Earth at that time had that technology, so it had to have been from outside of Earth. It just had to have.
Exactly. How do you conceptualize a flying chariot of fire when you have no reason to conceptualize a chariot on fire or even in the sky at all? It's just the only thing that Ezekiel could
That's a great point.
say. Yeah, that's what that looks like to me.
Ezekiel, so yeah, exactly. So you have that. You have so you have to take what they've said and realize that, like, look at it through the lens of like metaphor, and look at it through the lens of okay, they only had so many words to describe things. So if they say, the gods, landed in front of us on, a bronze bird, when they say bird, they're not literally talking about a bird. They're talking about something that could fly. And because the only thing they knew of that could fly were birds, that's why they called it that. It's really just that simple.
I'll tell you what. Do you think that the people from Roswell, when they said it was a flying saucer, do you think they actually thought it was something flying around that you gave your cat milk out of?
Exactly. No, see, it's a good point. Like, exactly.
What it looked like. It looked like a saucer to me.
Did you get a chance to watch that special that they did on Roswell on Discovery it was like just a few months ago over the summer? It was like right around the anniversary. I want
to say I saw bits and pieces. Probably
man,
to the Reddit.
If you get Discovery Plus, you're able to watch it still because it's still there. They took this new like AI learning technology, and it's a lie detector, and what it does is it reads all your facial expressions, your tone of voice, the change in pitch, your blink rate, everything. I mean, it's scary. It is. And if you think that your typical lie detection technology, which is good, is unbeatable, like this machine, this software, this
AI is a whole different.
Man, this is a whole different story. And what they did is they put it to the test, and they took and they're able to do it with video clips, which is amazing. Oh yeah. So they took the footage of all these different interviews of individuals who were close to the situation there in Roswell in 47, and wouldn't you like to know that like there was a guy who was like, listen, I saw the ship, I saw the bodies. Telling the truth, telling the truth. And then they found some people that this is what's really interesting. One of the guys had saw the craft and saw the bodies, but then there was another part of the story that actually wasn't true. So it's almost like well, take that into consideration. He's telling this unbelievable tale. If he's lying,
yeah.
If this machine isn't working, then like, wouldn't it be telling us that the whole thing is a lie? You know, like,
Right.
like why would you do that? So there's a lot of these weird like bits and pieces and points of data where like it's real, and then you can see where someone like stuck in another part, and you could even see where I think one of them had even changed part of his story to like protect somebody's identity, and it was a lie, but like the rest of it was true.
That part that was changed.
It's stunning.
Yeah, that is incredible. And if people don't understand what AI is or how machine learning in the AI sense works, basically what it is if you feed a computer algorithm, and some of the most brilliant computer scientists and mathematicians on Earth have come up with incredibly concise and small Python-coded algorithms that anyone can just take for free and implement in their own AI machine learning software if you have the how-to, or if you have the know-how. But they've taken these algorithms, and if you feed it enough definitive information, for example, is someone lying? You could feed this video clips of known liars on film, and you could do that in a myriad of ways. You could do just testimony from court cases where people were proven guilty. You could have a sample study where just to get information for people to be lying on camera, you say, hey, this is a science experiment we're doing, read this script, and then when I ask you a question, lie to me. And the computer being trained with the inputs of people telling the truth, being told these are people telling the truth because we've filtered it out and we know it, and then being fed these are lies, it will come up with ways to identify who's telling the truth and who's lying that no human on Earth could ever have come up with, because it will find patterns and tells that no human could ever pick up on.
It's unbelievable. It's basically, it's able to take data points that are happening in real time, you know, whereas like if I'm looking at somebody when they're talking to me and I'm like trying to figure out if they're lying or not, you know, I'm looking at a few different factors. I'm looking at like the way that they're speaking, I'm looking at their eyes, I'm looking at like where they're looking around, you know, maybe the way that their face
body
is
language,
moving. Right, body language. But this is able to look at all of it at once and calculate it very rapidly.
Yes.
And it works, and it was developed by, you know, one of the most prestigious colleges in the United States, and it's efficient. You know, they're talking it is accurate, you know, within 99.9999997 percent possibility of error.
Within this decade, we will absolutely be having the conversation of whether or not to allow that in a courtroom. Guaranteed.
Yeah, it is that powerful. So what I think they should do is continue to feed it information, and they should take random data points where the machine or the people operating the machine literally have no idea what the lie is or what the truth is until after, and you know, keep doing that and create a graph of how many times this thing was right and how many times it was wrong, and look at the percentage of you know, of yes,
just
no,
weight appropriately. Yep.
Right, weigh it out and then take it from there. So basically, looking at that, knowing that machine is that powerful, you know, I believe that the Roswell situation did happen the way that those witnesses said. I've read The Day After Roswell from Corso. I've been studying Roswell a lot, and I feel like that is like the smoking gun. This happened. It's real. So when you take that into consideration, that means that the United States military or some breakaway faction of it, somebody in this country has in its possession, a crashed machine. Call it a flying saucer, a spaceship, whatever you want to call it, from either another planet or another dimension, and we have that. So if that literally blows the lid open on every whistleblower that's ever said, "Hey man, like we have one of these in the desert. Hey man, I touched one of these. I saw one of these." And again, I'll go back to Bob Lazar. I've watched things about Bob involving, body language experts. And again, that's not a machine. That's a human doing that. Some of these guys are really good, though. And the guys who were really, really, really accurate were like, he's telling the truth. And
I have seen that. I think I've seen that same video where one of the world's leading experts in that was reviewing him, and
Yeah, no, that made me go, huh? All right.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. The one piece of evidence for him, though, that I always point to is like they were obviously trying to erase his background. They were.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, look no further than the video of the judge finally giving like the definitive proof, like yes, he did work here.
Yeah, right. He gets in trouble over some brothel nonsense, which is like whatever, man.
Who amongst us has not been in trouble for some brothel nonsense?
But it's not even. It's like, does that really like discredit somebody? Like that has nothing to do with anything.
Well, my credit if that's the case.
The guy had gone through a divorce. Like there's a lot of turmoil that kind of occurred in his personal life, and there's witnesses. And I tell people, I know you're I know just from the beginning of the conversation you're not the biggest fan of Corbell, but the documentary he did on Bob is interesting.
I have one problem with Corbell, and I will not deride anything he has done from the documentarian standpoint. I will not deride anything about him other than this one sticking point.
Okay.
Jeremy, you said on national TV, I have not even begun to release footage.
Yep, he did say that.
What? What's up?
Waiting for it, right? So I can definitely fire back on that in his defense, because we're going to be super unbiased here. Like again, when it comes to Jeremy, I don't really.
Just to be clear, when I say that is my only beef with him, I truly mean that.
I
get it.
That.
Like people say, oh, he's the fucking, Jersey Shore. Like, look at him wearing the tight. Like, shut up. Who cares?
Yeah, I don't care about the way the guy looks and dresses, his haircut and whatnot. I don't give a shit. Who cares?
This guy's looking for a spotlight. He's a camera lover. Okay, don't care.
Maybe he is. But
again, don't care.
That doesn't discredit somebody.
Absolutely not.
This is so when it comes to Mr. Corbell, who, if he ends up listening to this, I'd love to have you on the show. All are welcome at this point. The only thing I guess I have with him is like what you just said there, but I can say in response to that just from listening to guys like Dolan and others, that you like to keep people on their toes. You want to keep them listening because you want them to pay attention by saying things like that. There's buzzwords and phrases. But Lou has even brought this up. Like, you got to be careful not to burn your sources. He may really be sitting on like a treasure trove of stuff, and they're like, look, dude, you can't put it out yet. You can't put it out yet, or I'm never speaking to you again. So point. I feel like what we should do with guys like Corbell is give him the benefit of the doubt for the time being based on what he has released already. I'll give him credit where credit's due. The guy knows how to make a movie, all right? Like he does know how to do the whole documentary bit is, he knows how to work that. There's no question about it.
The guy's a filmmaker. I don't have a bad thing to say about anything he's done.
I think he's got good taste as far as, camera work and whatnot, but that's a whole nother point.
Sure.
But he's obviously close to the situation. So, I do believe like he wants ultimately what we all want, and that's just like the truth. I really do.
He has done by far and away more good than harm.
100%. Yeah,
by far and away.
I see these posts on Reddit where they're just like, "Well, I mean, how could you believe a man? Look at his shoes."
Exactly.
And it's like, what are we talking about right now?
It's like, all right. Well, I'm sorry, the adults are talking.
But he's got to keep his word. But again, I do believe he's in a situation where he's constrained.
I hope he has it. I hope he has not even begun releasing videos.
Yeah, for right now, like I can't say I believe him or that I don't believe him, but I lean towards believing him because he already has done it. He has. He has the radar return footage that he released on Instagram. But what I think he needs to do is take a hard look at what he has and yeah. It's like, come on, man.
Address that comment, because look no further than my Twitter if you want to see me asking him this every fucking day. Hey, what's up with those videos?
Oh, yeah, you tweet at him directly?
Oh, yeah, and say, hey, remember that thing you said? Because I do. And not a peep. But I mean, who am I? I'm just King Milkfart. I'm just some asshole on Twitter. I
Right. You're just some guy, right?
Yeah, I'm just some guy. I mean, if you don't want to respond to me, please don't. But say something, because that was one hell of a note to go out on.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. You got to put your money where your mouth is. But again, I think it's one of those things where we just need more time. We need to just see, because he could literally be sitting on X, Y, and Z, and then the person that sent it to him is still actively binded to some sort of NDA, just like Lou. Right. And he's like, dude, I'm risking a lot by sending you this, so you need to wait until this point. Unfortunately, that really is how some of this stuff works, and it sucks, because it's
Without a doubt.
I want to see this like 30-minute video Lou is always talking about, and I know he's catching hell for that.
Sure. But bear in mind, he never said, I have a 30-minute video, I'll drop it at some point.
Right. He said there is.
And in fact,
it
he
exists.
even went so far as to say, even if they deleted my emails where the video was, they have backups of all that, and it definitely exists. And then other people, have come out and said, yeah, I know that video he's talking about, or like have heard allusions to it.
Yep.
And there's a big difference between hey, this is something that the government has, and I know because I worked at the government, and hey, here's a bunch of stuff that I have. I'm just going to let you know I have it, and then I'm just going to go dark for 8 months.
Right. That's the killer. It's like, God, these guys sometimes, you got to watch what they say. Like, okay, here's, since we're talking about these, like, cults of personality in the UFO community, and also before we even go through that, just so people are on the right page here with us, this video we're talking about, Lou Elizondo has alluded to the fact that there is a piece of footage that exists that's like a half hour long that is, at least HD, high quality footage that is apparently undeniable, that it's showing multiple objects doing things that our machinery cannot. We do not have equipment in our arsenal, or the known arsenal of any other country on this planet, that can do what these things are doing in this footage. And it's high quality, it's long, and it's, again, to me, it sounds very much like
30-minute video,
smoking gun.
23 minutes of the 30-minute video, 23 minutes of which you have close up, crystal clear.
Yeah, I heard that they get within like 50 feet.
Yeah,
like
I've
close.
heard that as well.
Like it's right up alongside these planes, like whatever it is, and there's no getting around it. It's there, and it's concrete, and nobody can sit here and just be like, yeah, that's it's swamp gas, or yeah, it's a balloon.
I wonder if it's that video that was kicking around for a little bit and sort of just fell by the wayside of that. It's sort of like a shot through a dirty cockpit window of like a saucer by the right wing of a craft.
Oh, yeah.
Like talking about.
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I wonder if that was a couple hundred frames that someone squeaked out.
Could you imagine? Because like I look at that footage and I'm like, it's really well done. I had seen a post though that was talking about that somebody was able to identify the type of airplane that it was in, and I'm pretty sure that one was fake.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so
pretty sure.
I haven't seen that thread, so that may very well be the case.
But I mean, I skimmed it. It was like a few weeks ago, but apparently that is pretty much just most people have. Most people have decided based on that information that it's fake, but they still don't know. They're not 100% sure, but they were able to at least surmise that. Yeah, exactly. Lest we forget.
The gimbal was given the same treatment, or I'm sorry, the original Tic Tac.
Right, I was just gonna say that. My God, the same thing happened. So again,
for years, shelved as debunked for years.
Mm-hmm. I will keep myself open-minded on that particular piece of footage, but again, I mean, that guy could be wrong too. I don't know who posted that on Reddit. He could just be some guy pretending to be a pilot. I have no idea. He could literally be, one of these counterintelligence officers that they
let a guy calling himself King Milkfart post there.
Yeah.
Anything goes.
Anything goes at this point. They let me post there, just some guy. Like, I mean, I just want people to understand though that like claims have been made. You know, because there's a lot of people that watch my channel that are gonna listen to this that don't know anything about what we're saying right now. Yeah, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe. Of course, helps the channel out. Of course, shameless plug in the midst of the interview.
No shit. Hey, follow on Spotify. Keep abreast of the situation.
That's right. You know, and if you find this topic fascinating, Reddit is really like for me like the hub. That's where I go.
Great source.
It is. I think it's the best source. I go there. UFO Twitter is good, but Twitter's just very toxic for me at this point. But since we're like I was saying earlier, since we're talking about all these big names, what do you think? I'm gonna see if you can guess the name that I'm about to say. Another one of these well-known individuals. Yeah, there it is. Stephen Greer. What's your take on Stephen Greer?
Steer clear of the Greer.
Yeah, you know,
I'll leave it at that. Steer clear.
I found really, really, really good evidence that he had faked that amazing, like, orange glowing orb footage from over the ocean. Like that,
that's a known fake.
Not that the footage itself is fake, but those were flares, apparently.
He paid a pilot to go out, and not only did he do it for that, but he was found to have been doing that for his paid CE5 excursions, or retreats.
Yep.
That for the handsome, or for the modest fee of $2,500.
Unbelievable.
Come out to the desert. Mm-hmm. And we can eat a couple peyote buttons and watch my buddy throw some flares out of the window.
It's a shame, too, because if you look back at all of his work, like, it appears that, like, he at one point really was doing a lot of good, and then he turned to the dark side of the Force, man. He really did. Yep. He went full Darth Greer on everybody, and it's sad. It really is sad.
I lost respect for Greer. Obviously, the flare thing is huge, but believe it or not, I did not hear that until after I had already lost respect for him, and it was shortly after his appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience, probably like 5 or 6 years ago. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And there was a whole thing about we found an alien like mummy in the desert.
That whole thing.
And I was like, oh Jesus Christ, dude.
Dude, you don't know what that is until you know.
You couldn't get that under a mass spectrometer to find out it was just human DNA before going on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah, he shouldn't have said a word.
Yeah, exactly.
He had it in one of his documentaries, and listen, I'm not saying that the documentaries that he's done they do contain really useful, pertinent, important, true information about like the history of like the deep state and the military-industrial complex. Like, listen, Greer has done a lot of good work. Like,
he has turned a lot of people onto the topic that otherwise would have never been associated.
But when you're going out and you're paying a pilot to drop flares to convince people that paid over $2,000 that they're having like the most surreal, important experience in the history of their lives, like that's. I mean, it's beyond fucked up. It's literally, it's disgusting. It's like convincing a nun that she's just met Christ. I mean, it's
Sylvia Brown cold reading. It's the same thing.
It's so, oh God, it's just so wrong. And you know what? I really started, like I was like a big fan of Greer, but before I had even seen that evidence that he had, fabricated this event, the flare thing was one thing, but before that, and so when he started attacking Lou, and I'm like, he's not attacking him. He's like, he's a big disinformation agent, which Lou has been pretty open that he was counterintelligence. Like, if you were counterintelligence, are you going to tell us that you're counterintelligence? Like if you were so actively trying to do that, is that what? And counterintelligence doesn't mean, he was counterintelligence on the UFO topic. He was counterintelligence for the United States military. That doesn't mean it has anything to do with UFOs. So I see this.
In fact, it almost certainly had zero to do with it.
And it really pissed me off when I saw. I was just like, wait a second. Now, you know what? I'm always open-minded. For all I know, Greer may even be right. But I don't think so. Right. Lou just has a lot more credibility, and Greer, has said things about other very well-known individuals in the UFO community, and they're like, oh, that's Stephen Greer, right? He's full of shit. He had said something about...
He had his own attorney make a public statement calling him a liar.
Right! So they share an attorney. Danny Sheehan.
You have to lie pretty bad to get the attorney who
that was it.
Attorney.
That's all I had to hear.
Yep, me too.
Danny Sheehan represented both of them, and he it's obvious Sheehan knows something though about the phenomenon that he's privy to. Oh, of course, and he's probably the greatest constitutional lawyer alive. So if he represents you, and the guy you're talking smack about, and says you're the liar, you're the liar. Like
you're the fucking liar.
You are the liar, and there's really no way around it at that point. I see that, and I'm like, oh God. I'm like, because it's like really, it's discrediting like the entire movement at that point.
Yeah.
And there's other people who have come at Greer.
Because he did that in his doc. And took a clip of Sheehan out of context and then spun it like so blatantly as he did. Because you did that now, even though you could have 99.9% of every documentary you've ever made and that you'll ever make be nothing but objective fact, no one can trust that it is anymore.
Oh, but there's still some people out there.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're gonna have your diehard fanatics who will never let go, of course, and they're gonna write every excuse in the book. But now, because you came out and did such an obvious lie, by all means, make all the documentaries you want, write everything you want, write it all, and have it all actually be true. But you better expect it to be scrutinized with a fine-tooth comb from now on.
At this point, it has to be, and there's other guys that are in this field that I have a lot of respect for, that the entire community has respect for. One of them being Jacques Vallée, who, when I got to speak to Lou, I brought up this new book that Jacques Vallée had been a part of, Trinity,
with Paula Harris.
With Paula Harris, yeah, that's right. The Trinity, the Best Kept Secret. That's what I was referencing when I was speaking to Lou, and I brought it up. He seemed to know exactly what I was talking about.
Oh, of course.
There was a comment that Greer had made about Jacques Vallée, and they briefly asked him at like some seminar that he was at one time, oh, what do you think about this thing that Greer said? And he's like, basically like, what the hell is that guy talking about? Yeah, and right there, I was just like, oh, man.
Yeah.
He's just like making things up, just total fabrications, and it's a shame. And that's why, I'm Team Lou at this point, dude. Like,
Lou crew.
But there's people who are still hypnotized by Greer. There's still people out there that are still riding like the David Wilcock train, which I just, oh God, these guys. I'm in contact with this guy who, lives in an underground base in Antarctica for 50 years. It's just like, shut up.
Anjali, where's my Anjali?
Oh God, don't even get me started. The fact that Lou even like referenced her was like shocking to me.
Well, he kept asking him. So I think he ended up looking it up because at first he was like, I don't know if you saw the first time he was ever asked, he was like, yeah, I don't know anything about that. And then the person asking the question actually had to explain to Lou like what her claims were. And he's like, well, okay.
I guess they brought it up enough times where they're like, I guess I'm going to have to comment.
Like, okay, I'm going to have to comment on this. And for those who don't know, Lou's stance on it is he very coyly basically said she's full of shit, but in the nicest, lovingest, way possible.
Basically put it as like, well, I don't know one way or another, so what I'm going to do is just wait and see. Like he was really, 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 really respectful about it, when I'm sure in his own mind he was probably like, oh, that lady's full of shit.
Yeah.
As soon as I started reading about it, I was like, oh, forget this. I was like, no. And it's a shame because then maybe one of those things will be true one day. But not this time.
I'll never know. I'll never know now. Mountain Mama blocked me on her subreddit for asking many questions.
Damn. Yeah, I haven't. See, I in this community, I hope I will be able to make an impact at some point where it's known. Because I like making connections with people. I'm not looking for the stardom, the fame, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to get to the answers. And I want people to see who I am and hear my ideas and my experiences, because I believe that I can do some good and maybe, convince some people like something really is happening here. And that's the goal, is to get their attention, to tell them like, look, this is a phenomenon that really is occurring. So with that being said, I hope that I can make these connections, and that history will look back on me as somebody that was trying to keep it honest 100% of the time. Like, I have no reason to come on here and make up stories. There are plenty of other YouTube channels for that. I'm sure someone's going to think I'm full of shit when I talk about, the cousin in the family and then my ex-girlfriend's father. Sure, go ahead. I mean, I can't, I don't have any proof of, you're supposed to be objective and remain skeptical, but so am I. I have to do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you what I ate for lunch yesterday. You have no reason to believe it. You know what I mean?
Nope, not at all.
At the same time, K Bono.
Exactly.
Who benefits?
Who benefits? Right. I don't want to, be one of these guys that like holds a seminar on how I can get you in contact with like interdimensionals. I'm a more spiritual person nowadays. I meditate daily. My girlfriend, it really is. It's very, very invigorating. My girlfriend's a Reiki master. Some people think that's bullshit. I can tell you from personal experience, it is not. Like, there's a lot more to this reality than any of us, I think, really even know.
Without question.
And that's like, now that we're pushing into, let's see where we're at now, about like an hour and a half into, I think this is a good way. This is a good closing. We'll hit this topic.
Cool.
This is a very big question. It's a deep question, and it's, I think, maybe more important than all of the things that we could come up with when it comes to the phenomenon.
What was aftershave?
I'm sure he uses electric shave first, and then. Good
call.
I know I have it in my bathroom. That's not technically it's not aftershave, but it's, it's pre-shave, but. There's that other. I got a bottle of something in there. I forget what the hell the name of it is, but it works.
Just derail you with that. I'm just thinking about.
Oh no, it's funny because I should throw that on the Lou question list. Like, what do you shave with? Because I better hear Gillette Fusion Pro Glide. I better hear that.
I don't need no shit quattro bullshit in this house.
Right, there will be none of that on this podcast. We cannot use any other blade. So there's this post that I saw on Reddit a while back that had like this long laundry list of things that Tom DeLonge has said, and talking about how they call it that, like, in the intelligence community, that these beings are called like the Watchers, and that they've basically were the reason that like we have so many religions on this planet, and that they've even like guided us into like different wars, like just all this stuff. But there's this big overriding theory that all of the weird things that through myth and legend, like demons, angels, that they're all real, but they're all part of this vast phenomenon. But I'm moving in this direction more so now. Are we being visited by beings from other planets? Are we being visited by beings from other dimensions? Or are we being visited by both? And I am in the territory now, based on my own personal research, of the both. That's what I'm very curious to hear what you think about that.
I have been more than accepting of the extraterrestrial, meaning separate planetary-based civilization visiting us hypothesis, for the vast majority of the time that I've been interested in this topic. However, I too recently, and I will say this too, I don't know if this is related, I guess this is sort of tangentially, but I was someone who was raised a Roman Catholic.
Yeah, I was raised Catholic too. I didn't go to Catholic school, but
I went to Catholic school for all 12, baby. Don't even get me going.
Oh man.
Whew. Oh yeah. So just like every good Catholic boy, I quit it when I was right out of school.
Yep.
Read about world religions other than my own. Said, oh wow, this is all just a bunch of bullshit. Religion's opiated to the masses. Went the hard atheist route. Went the agnostic route. Went back to the atheist route. And in my own search through life, came to the conclusion that most woo-woo is bullshit. because you can point to examples of it being proven to be bullshit. However, the fact that we have the evidence of these things in our skies, in our oceans, doing what they do, and what we know they do, that at least jiggles the lock off of that cabinet a little bit.
That's interesting. It does, doesn't it?
Because I would never have been accepting of something going from 80,000 feet to 10 feet above the ocean without a sonic boom in a matter of 5 seconds. I would have said, yeah, right. Oh, well, no, actually, it turns out we have 3 different sources of radar proving that it did. Well, shit.
Changes everything.
It really does. And if that's something that I was willing to just poo-poo, but then very readily accept when confronted with the evidence, I mean, hell, that made me take a step back and take a long, hard look at everything and go, you know what? I gotta stop calling the bullshit alarm so prematurely.
Right.
And it allowed me to take a look at the big picture and become okay with the fact that, you know, we're trying real hard and we're doing a great job figuring out how this universe works. We really are.
Yeah.
But we sure as shit are nowhere near as close to solving that riddle as I thought we were a decade ago.
Oh, nowhere near it. And you can even take the scientific perspective. Like, so what I do, which not everybody does, but I feel like maybe more people are open to it now, is like I try to use the scientific to explain the spiritual and the supernatural, without changing basically the base description. Like, oh yeah, there is such thing as astral projection, but this is how it works scientifically, but it's real, you know, like that kind of idea. Or like, oh yeah,
that's exactly what needs to happen. Yeah.
When I see this object in the sky, why is it shaped that way? Well, it really is from another dimension, but the reason that it's shaped that way is because we're in a third dimension. It's a 5-dimensional object, and this is how it would look if we could see the other dimensions. So that's the thing, is I'm taking like the quantum mechanics portion of it, the mathematical portion of it, and be like, well, why would an object do that? Why would it be that color? Why would it be that shape? And I'm starting to like hit some really like startling conclusions, like,
oh yeah,
like a tesseract. You know, like a 4-dimensional, 5-dimensional tesseract would look like, you know, a tetrahedron in our 3D space. But if it was in the higher dimensions, it would look like this. And I'm like, well, well, wait a second. Well, we see these objects kind of like going in and out and just vanishing. I'm like, hey, wait a second. Like, that's exactly what it would look like if it was like popping in and out of reality. Like if you have
describe a cube to someone who lives on a world where only squares exist.
Right. There's that really, really good video on YouTube that shows what it would look like if a 3-dimensional ball were to appear in a 2-dimensional world. But better yet, if a 4-dimensional cube were to appear in a 3-dimensional world, it looks like it starts off as like a tiny dot, and it looks like it's basically being zoomed in on, and it's just a cube. And I'm like, dude, this is what people are seeing. When these objects are appearing, that's what they're seeing. And I'm like, that goes right in line with what you would expect to see out of an object that's of a higher dimension. And I'm like, that's really interesting.
And it could very well be neither a either or nor a both scenario. It could be that there has been a civilization, and why the hell not? Maybe it's literally a billion years ahead of us, technologically speaking. Let's say it even evolves at half the pace, but has existed for a billion years longer. Okay, well, it still has 500 million years on us then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Technologically speaking. So
time could be very different to them.
Time could be very different. This could be only one of a multitude of dimensions in which they exist when they feel like it.
Right.
You know,
Jacques Vallée talks about like what he thinks these beings are, and like, you know, what they're capable of. And I made a post about it like on my TikTok. I try to share a lot of UFO stuff on TikTok. Not the biggest TikTok guy, but it's really good for like quick little tidbits of information and footage and stuff. It's actually pretty cool for that. So he had said something about these beings are all around us all the time, and the reason we catch these little glimpses of them, or it's like, you know, you see them very briefly and then they're gone, is because they're interaction with the flow of time as we know it is completely different, and they are actually able to get a lot more done in one frame of Planck time than we could. So I mean, we are talking about the most minute measurement of time known to current science, like a millionth of a millisecond. Like,
yeah, you actually can't even write it any other way.
Yeah, it's really minimum. Like exactly. It's kind of like talking about like 0 Kelvin. You know, like
right.
all exactly. Molecules movement cease, and it's the ultimate level of cold.
Right.
They're able to
cloud.
do
You
this.
Stare at a still electron. Like
yeah, exactly. They're able to do this, where they're able to move around and get some kind of work done or interact with the environment around them in a frame of Planck time, and they could literally just be right in front of us, but we don't see them because they're not constrained to third dimensional time, and that's it gets really complicated at that point.
Yeah, you get some veins popping in your forehead when you think about it for too long. Trust me, I know. I get it, but it is when you look at the science and you look at the math behind it. As someone who's terrible at math and who needs mathematical equations that are probably very basic for some college students nowadays, explained to him by an expert in order to get it, it makes sense. It really does.
When you start to apply all those ideas, it
absolutely.
It actually describes the things being witnessed.
And it correlates. Every piece of evidence corroborates one another.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But smoothly though, really, really well. Where it's like, this literally sounds like this is the truth. This is actually being explained, and like there's no gaps, and that's what makes it really startling. Is like, oh, here's this explanation. Well, that's why that UFO would move that way. That's why it would look that way. I mean, people have reported seeing these things, and it's like, now I'm beginning to really think, like, when I've seen all these people on YouTube and on the internet for years talking about, consciousness and higher density beings and low vibrational entities. And I'm like, this is possibly all real. It actually may be, like, when you talk about people experiencing things during like sleep paralysis, like Hat Man and all those types of things that are very, very terrifying.
Horrifying.
It's like, it makes sense. We obviously have energy within ourselves of some kind. I mean, the brain is shooting off electricity to our limbs. Energy can't be created or destroyed. So when you die, where does it go?
Yeah.
This topic of, is there a connection between aliens and like near-death experiences? That's what I'm really have been really studying hard lately.
That's my end goal, is to find that answer, because I'll tell you what,
it's weird, man. You're starting to get into kind of like really creepy territory where you're
something is going on, and I have a feeling that is why the word was chosen. And I know that he said later he wishes he used a different word. I don't wish he used a different word. Somber.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I think he used that word, is because there's an article that I read while I was actually at work the other day. I get some downtime in between working, and there's some quiet and calm at my job site. It's this article somebody wrote called, "Is there an alien connection to NDEs and the concept of the afterlife?" And what was fascinating was that they're talking about the presence of similar beings being seen in the midst of a near-death experience, DMT trips even, and alien abduction experiences. And I'm like, I don't know where that connection is, but it's there somewhere. Whitley Strieber has even written about it. I think it was called The Afterlife Revolution. He wrote a book. Now, this is going to sound crazy to some people, but he wrote a book with his dead wife. He said that she was contacting him from the beyond, and that...
I've actually never heard this.
Yeah, Whitley's a really interesting guy. And I believe his story. There's a lot, like he did a lot to show something was going on with him. I've wavered back and forth on abduction, but I am now back to, it's something. I don't know, but I used to be very straightforward about it. Like, yeah, they're abducting us and they're creating hybrids and blah blah blah. Like, that may all be true, but now I'm moving into the territory of, it seems like there's multiple races doing multiple things. Like, maybe one race is abducting us and they're experimenting on us and creating a hybrid race. But I keep hearing this theory about they're trying to create hybrids because they are containers. Tom DeLonge, I believe, alluded to this, used that phrase, containers. And it's like, well, container for what? Souls. And that's where things start to get scary. It's like, well, what are they doing? What, do they not have souls? Like, now, someone close to me, I won't say who, but because it's personal to them, but they believe that a lot of this stuff is demonic. And not all of it, though. They think some of it's from another planet, but they said, the abduction thing and all that, they're like, demons, like, or what we call demons. They are low vibrational beings that were, again, we're going to use metaphor, but we're going to use the Bible to describe it. They were cast out of heaven, and they are not allowed to have souls, and they are trying to figure out a way around that. What that actually means outside of metaphor, I don't know. But again, how do you feel about, like, Linda Moulton Howe?
Linda Moulton, man, she, again, heart's in the right place, has not fallen to the dark side, in my opinion, at all. I think that her heart is still in the right place.
She has had some of the stuff that she talks about, though, it sounds like bullshit, but it's like...
I feel like she lays it all out way too thick, way too quick.
I just, she's had guys tell her, like, oh, I slipped into another dimension in the desert, and, like... there are these scientists there that had created our universe in a lab, all this crazy stuff. I just don't know. But
I don't know.
I recommend people go watch The Observers, that new documentary that just came out, and specifically pay attention to the portion in which she talks about someone, the literally, she calls it the most important conversation that she ever had, like the most significant whistleblower moment that she had, where somebody was talking to her about, like, the main races that have been visiting us. There's the Nordics, there's the Greys, and there's the Reptilians, and they're all they all have their own agenda, but they kind of have a little bit of conflict with each other here and there. But they talk about how they've basically figured out a way to, like, look like each other, and it all sounds like something out of a science fiction film, but I don't know anymore, man. Like, I just don't like. To me now, everything is on the table. Lou has even said that, and I'm not ripping that from him, but I am merely agreeing. Everything's on the table now.
Lou said there's something there, some sort of connection with consciousness.
100%.
That's all I need to hear.
He, and I do believe that they're able to pilot these ships using consciousness. I think that technology is a thing.
Oh yeah, that's something that we're not far away from at all.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know if you knew this, but okay. So I have a VR headset. I have the.
Oh, nice.
The Valve Index.
One I can't decide. What's it called?
The Valve Index. It's very expensive, but I saved up some money and did what I could and got that. It's incredible, but I will say that they released an article not that long ago speaking about how close are we to getting a device like what you see in, like, Sword Art Online, where like a nerve gear type deal, where it's you're able to basically jack into the Matrix, and it's feeding information into your brain, where it really actually feels like you have been transported to another world. And
give it to me.
I'm very curious to try that out. So they didn't give away too much, but they said, quote, "We are way closer than people know."
Oh yeah. Oh, I believe it. Look at Neuralink.
Yep.
What is that end game?
But
its end game is going to be total interfacing with the human brain.
Total interfacing, and the ability to basically destroy any sort of ailment that has to do with electrical signals in the brain being misfired or misconnected.
Yep. Which might be as big of a breakthrough as was the invention of penicillin when it comes to fruition. We don't know.
Bigger.
Yeah, could be. Absolutely.
Because it could be a cure. And, penicillin's a treatment. This is a cure. We're talking about depression, anxiety, dementia, Alzheimer's, depression. I think I said depression. Bipolar. All these different ailments, schizophrenia, even anything that goes wrong with the brain. So,
or anything neurological at all, like cerebral palsy.
It would be game changing, but people are worried about that kind of technology. So ultimately, I think, again, where this conversation will end tonight is I believe that there, I don't know what it is, but the more I read, there seems to be some kind of underlying connection between the ET phenomenon, consciousness, and just the mystery that is life. Like it's really hard to pinpoint what those connections actually are, but these beings apparently are present, during some of these experiences, and they have something to do with it.
Agree, 100%. And you tell me if you think that this is a valid summary of what it is you're saying. There is a secret to the universe that we right now do not know, but we know that they know.
Right. That's a really, 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 really good way of putting it. This article I just posted in the general. So was it in general? Did I put in? No, I put in UFOs. Is there an alien connection to NDEs, OBEs, and the concept of the afterlife? This really does a better job of summarizing what I'm trying to get across here than I could even do myself right now. I read most of it.
I'm gonna bookmark it right now.
But they talk about what all these different experiences. People seeing the white light, the tunnel, and all that.
Holy shit! There's a lot of sources here. Wow.
There's a lot of those are all like separate articles too. Those links.
That's nuts.
Light beings and all that. What's the white light really about? Unconscious energy. But it's about why, how, and all of those things in between. These beings may have something to do with it. So there's this section. It's actually not even there anymore, though.
No.
The Alien Control Agency and Alien Council giving life reviews. Like there's this, like these beings may be the overseers of like this reality. They are the angels, the demons. They're all of them. They're all those things all at once. They are what you see when you die. They're so don't even know what to
programming doom right now.
I don't even know what to call them at this point, but they may have something to do with all of that, and it's hard to like wrap your head around it, but it's something for people to think about when you're hearing this.
Definitely.
I'm doing a lot of heavy research into it.
Give it some thought, even if it's scary.
Right. Yeah, I'm not look, I'm not it's a little freaky, but I'm not freaked out to the point that I'm not going to do some reading and some investigating here at all. That's
the only thing
I'm jumping in.
That's going to freak you out is the unknown. So
it is the fear of the unknown. Exactly. Like I'm very afraid of death. I'll admit that. Everybody that's a good friend with me in real life knows that. Like that, the thought, even me saying this next sentence is tough. I know that one day I have to die, and I don't like that at all. I don't know what that is. I don't know where I go. I have my beliefs, but my beliefs really just translate more to hopes.
That's a great way of putting it.
It's heavy.
That's, I feel, the revelation that a lot of people who are raised religious and end up walking away from an organized religion make that exact same realization. It's like, these are all kind of just hopes in a way. So maybe I'll check out what else is out there. Check this out, because this doesn't translate to just hopes. There's evidence for this.
It's really, again, it leaves me speechless sometimes thinking about, like, what could be. It's all right. I'll read this part. Is there an alien connection between the NDEs, OBs, and the concept of the afterlife? So apparently it says there was some guy who wrote some book that said that on Earth there was like some kind of selection system. It says a detailed explanation will come later, so let it suffice here to say that beings on some world called Iarga that possess this mentality are denied reincarnation. This selection is the cause of the continuing improvement in mentality generation after generation, which enables a race to become unselfish. On Earth, this selection was blocked some 20 centuries ago by extraterrestrial intervention, whereby we cannot improve our average mentality. Like, what if like the expanding consciousness and all those sorts of things. Like, what if they're like the overseers of that concept, where like everyone on the internet especially has been talking about this grand awakening, that this consciousness shift, all those things. We're talking about them like near 2012 and all that, and the Mayan prophecy and whatnot. But there seems to be something going on with human consciousness as a whole, because I can tell you that like I go into stores now and it seems like there's like suddenly like a spiritual section with like crystals and like incense and meditation and books about chakras and all. And I'm like, whoa, this is going like really mainstream all of a sudden. Like, what's going on here? And it makes me think like, well, there's got to be something to it if we're all doing it on a grand scale like that.
Right.
It's hard for me to really like pinpoint it or like describe it properly, but it feels like if all of our consciousnesses are like connected. Like they say that there's only one mind in the universe, like consciousness is God or whatever, and that, we all are the same consciousness split into different perspectives and different bodies, and that we will return to source eventually. If that's the case, we're all like expanding in some way right now, and we all know it on some level that we don't even realize, whereas others do. But not everybody is actually in that state of realization. It's really complex and complicated to someone who has absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. But basically what I'm saying is that like our human minds are like evolving, but all at once, like all of us, because we all, there's this thing called The Field. I'm reading a book about it. I've been reading it for a long time. I reread it all the time. By Lynn McTaggart, I think her name is. And it's basically it's like the Force from Star Wars, really, for lack of a better way of explaining it. But that it's what makes life. It's it's the belief that like our minds are not actually created by the human brain. Our brains are like radios, and we're picking them up as if they are radio waves.
That's a great, and I have heard that analogy. I think it was maybe Terrence McKenna who went heavily into that.
I think it may very well be true.
I see no evidence to suggest otherwise.
Well, it would explain a lot, and it would explain how people are able to predict the future. It would explain shared dreams, a lot of things that have happened. And think about it. So this is how I explain it to people. It's the snow globe analogy. So like our third dimension is inside of a snow globe. This is where we live. Me, you, my girlfriend, my mom, your family, everybody we know. We're in this snow globe.
Yep.
And we have little radios inside of our head, just like you would find in a car. Now, on the outside of the snow globe is this energy field. That is consciousness, right? But it's radio waves for the sake of the analogy. And we pick it up. Now, our brains pick it up, but because it exists outside of our third dimension, it's able to see the entire third dimension from like above. So like, for example, I'm at point A on one side of the snow globe. You are all the way on point B, and I can't even get there. It's too far away. It's light years away. Now, if I go outside of the snow globe, I can see both points at once. But not only can I physically see those locations, but I can also see time.
All locations.
Right. It's consciousness non-locality. I'm able to see it.
Yeah.
All of time, all of space. And
I'm going to use that snow globe analogy. That's a good one.
I really honestly like came up with that one day while I was reading this book, and I'm like, this is like, this makes sense, right? But it makes sense, and it sounds
totally does.
It's quantum entanglement, like in a nutshell.
Right. Yeah, pretty much. Yep. Yeah, it's there's a way, there is a field, there is a something that allows the barrier of time and space to simply not be a hindrance anymore.
Right.
There's something there. And we know for a fact that there are fields. We know that there's a field that allows atomic nuclei to have a mass. Just think about that for a second. That doesn't even make sense.
It barely makes sense.
But we know that it's there.
But we know.
Yep.
We know that it's there.
What the hell else is out there? You know?
It's unbelievable. But on that note, I think that now it would be a good time for us to close out the show. But I will say, ultimately, at this point, my opinion is that all of the myths and legends of old, whether it's angels, demons, fairies, just all of these things. I think they all emanate and have an origin in the phenomenon, in this whatever the phenomenon really is. When we see those flying saucers and ships in the sky, when people have these experiences where beings are taking them out of their bed at night and moving them through walls, which again would, that implies dimensional abilities, and
Sure.
and near-death experiences where these people that have had these experiences see similar things, these beings. There's some kind of connection there. I don't know what it is, but I'm looking for it. I hope one day that I'm able to find it. It's really important. It's critical that we figure out what this is, and people really need to actually start taking it more seriously, because it's grand, it's vast, and it's like the essence of all that is. I mean, we're here, but it's like, I know a lot of people that they aren't like me. They don't wake up in the middle of the night wondering like why they exist in this reality.
Too many.
They don't. They're too busy thinking about, I got to get up for work tomorrow. And I'm not saying that I don't.
Sure.
But at the same time, these things are very much in the front of my mind, man. Like, they really are. And that's what this YouTube channel existed for. Now, again, this is why I'm making a second channel. YouTube's algorithm sucks. So it's like,
yes, it does.
I have like all this different content that I want to make, and I wanted to do it like all on one channel. So YouTube's algorithm's like, no, you're probably gonna have to make another channel for that, which is why I'm doing that. Instead of changing my niche or trying to like overload this channel with just 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 different things. It's like, there's people who come here that want to watch me play Star Wars Battlefront, but then here I am talking about near-death experiences. It's like, it's a mishmash. Yeah. So that's why the Classified Mind is being created. That's why that new channel is going to exist. It is called the Classified Mind. That's right. It's not up yet. It doesn't even exist yet. It's in the works right now.
Classified Mind.
That's it. It is going to exist. It's in the works right now, and I'm very, very excited to put it out there. Very excited.
Definitely.
But hey, dude, Joe, it's been a pleasure, man. I really appreciate you doing this. Like,
thanks for having me. It's been a
more than welcome to come back, dude. Like, doing the podcast alone has been kind of like difficult sometimes, because I want to bounce ideas off of somebody.
I'm only ever a Discord buzz away.
Dude, appreciate it. You're like, who knows, man? Maybe you'll become like a permanent, like, sidekick here. That'd be cool. You haven't met Zio yet. He's over there as Overlord there. He runs my Discord, basically. He's my real life friend. He lives down the road. He and I went to high school together. He has had some remarkable experiences that I'm sure people would be fascinated to hear.
Shout out to Zio.
Astral experiences, things that have happened that like will just it's like, it will make you go, dude, are you serious?
All the more reason to hit that fucking subscribe button, people.
I would really appreciate that. Yeah, hopefully everybody did enjoy the discussion tonight, and if you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to hear more, because there's definitely more on the way. I'm going to try to do this regularly, on a regular basis. I hate that word, regularly. That's like,
I know, it's a weird one.
It makes my tongue like
judicial. I don't like that word.
Anti-disestablishmentarianism is easier to say than regularly. But yeah, hey man, thanks a lot. I'm going to get out of here. I'm jumping right from this into doing like one of my regular like PlayStation live streams, just because that's how I feel like finishing out the night. But it's been a pleasure.
I'm doing the same.
Fantastic. I'm sure I'll see you in the Reddit too.
Oh yeah. And anyone who's listening, hey, come by, drop me a comment on Reddit. I'm on Twitch TV /King Milkfart. I play a lot of DayZ, and that's about it.
Nice, dude. Nice. Yeah. Oh yeah. So there's a section here in the Discord if you want to do self-promotion. I put it there. I see a lot of people don't do that. So I'm like, you know what? I know a lot of people here that have their own content, and I'm just like, dude, share it. Who cares? Go for it.
Yeah, I can take my shirt off.
That's sweet. I was told that at 2,000 subs I have to make an OnlyFans, but I didn't tell them or make any promises as to what will be on that.
Gotcha.
But all right, man. Hey, thanks for being here. I'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your night. And thanks for hanging out, dude. Appreciate it.
Been a pleasure, man. Take care now.
All right, dude. See you later.
Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching the show. Thanks to Joe for being here. That was a really good conversation. I think we got a lot of interesting information out there. And again, if you enjoyed it, just show support for the channel if you can, because it's literally like improving my life. The more I'm able to spend time on this, the sky's the limit here, man. If I'm able to do this full time, there's literally just no telling what I could create for everybody, and we could have really interesting conversations. This is, I think, the beginning of something great here. Obviously, that was the first time I've done an interview. It's the first ever in my entire life. I have never just like interviewed somebody before in a long form like that. So if you enjoyed it, leave some feedback. If you found this interesting, let me know. And this is what you should expect to see and hear on the Classified Mind in the near future. I am Cortex Zero. You're in the right place at the right time. Haven't said that in a while, but I feel like maybe I should use that every now and then because it's kind of true. And thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And I'll catch you guys in the next video, in the next stream, in the next podcast episode, and maybe in the PlayStation party if you're there with me. But thanks a lot. Take care and stay safe out there, guys. Have a good night.